It's the most wonderful time of the year. Well, at least it's supposed to be, right? But what if the holidays are supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year? What if they're not? What if this year feels, well, complicated with family drama, empty chairs at the table, or just too much pressure to hold it all together? Friend, this episode is your reminder that peace is not found in perfect plans, it's found in God's presence. So let's talk about it. Let's take a look at how we can take our peace back, even in the midst of holiday chaos. Hi, friends. Welcome to Taking Back Happy. I'm your host, Gina Granville, God's girl, retired homeschool mom of 4, empty nester, Gigi, essential oil and exercise enthusiast, Christian life coach, and someone who is taking back her own happy. I know many of you feel exactly like I do in these midlife years, wondering if your best days are behind you, but feeling way too young and vibrant to sit on the porch and just watch life go by. What if you could replace negative thoughts with curiosity and possibility, renewing your mind, faith, joy, passion, purpose, and adventure in this season? If you're ready for a little mindset coaching as you navigate change, then throw on those walking shoes, pop in those earbuds, and join me right here as we take back happy together. Hey friends, welcome to Taking Back Happy. So if you want to connect, you want to go a little deeper with this Taking Back Happy, I have a couple options for you. The first one is the Taking Back Happy Facebook group. You can hop in there. Every day we have different posts, and some things just silly things, some things just to encourage others and, share with one another. Also, you can become a TBH Insider, a Taken Back Happy Insider. That's going to be a weekly email that comes to your email. It's going to have the latest podcast. It'll have tips on creating a happy mindset. I'll have early bird access to special offers and an encouraging Bible Devo. So, and then I have one more exciting thing that's coming up soon is I'm going to start doing Taking Back Happy coaching calls. Initially, I'm going to offer these as a free coaching call. It's going to be a mindset coaching call. So anything that you're dealing with, anything you want a little, you need a listening ear and you need a little bit of coaching on, then this will be the call for you. So I'll give you the details. I'll post it in the podcast. I'll post it on the Facebook group and we will just go from there. It should be a lot of fun. So let's talk holidays. The holidays can bring both joy and tension. I feel like some of you are probably like me and you just love Christmas time. You love the holidays. You love the thought of family being together. You love the decorations. You love the going places together. You love the Christmas tree. You just love it all. I have this kind of I'm the Hallmark girl, right? I'm the Hallmark Christmas girl. So I have this whole big imagination and, I think about how magical it is. And the season is magical, but also that's a good thing and that's a bad thing because you could all of a sudden be having all these crazy, again, they are magical or make believe, depending how you look at it, but just expectations of what you want it to be. And a lot of times it doesn't really pan out exactly the way that you're seeing it. And I feel like even more so as a midlife woman, because your kids are grown or they're mostly grown and they have their own things going on. And, especially like mine, 3 out of the 4 are married and my youngest son is in a serious relationship. And so they all have their own thing going on. They have things with their spouse or their spouse's families and things like that. What I imagine it'll be like and what it really turns out to be like is a lot of times 2 different things. And I'll even have this, oh, we're going to, we'll go to church on Christmas Eve and then we'll come back and we'll have pizza and we'll watch movies and we'll make cookies and all that kind of thing. And sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't work out. So it's really something I think is just very relevant to kind of talk about and kind of think about and also just kind of acknowledge that there really is sometimes a gap there between what we imagine it would be and what it really is. Which brings me to my first point, and that's the holiday pressure cooker. So, when we're thinking about why the season that's supposed to be so joyful can feel so heavy, a lot of times it's like we were just talking. There is an expectation gap. There's what we hope will happen versus what really happens. And the mental load that women carry sometimes, just all the different things, the hosting, the gifting, the keeping the peace. I think about that. I mean, even up until Christmas Eve, I'm doing all the things. Even though my kids are grown and I don't have to do all the things anymore, I want to do all the things. So I'm up late and I'm like wrapping the last presents and I'm making sure everything looks really pretty. And we always do like a breakfast, so a brunch, a breakfast, and everybody will come to my house and do that first. And then they go on and go see all their other family members and do lunch, dinner, whatever they're going to do after that. So I make these casseroles. Sometimes I make these homemade cinnamon rolls, and I'll be up really super late doing that. Last year I was doing that, and the smoke alarm was going off at 3 in the morning while I was finishing up because I was doing bacon to put in these casseroles. And I had some of the kids were over earlier, and we had stayed up and watched movies and stuff. So of course I didn't want to start working on anything until they left. And then I'm like, my mom and her dog was living with me at the time. And so I'm sitting there at 3 in the morning, opening all the doors, like fanning the smoke alarm so it didn't go off. And I'm like, oh my gosh, really? I think that's just part of it though, right? If we look at Matthew 11:28, it says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." And I think that's such a good revelation because I think even from the time that we have little kids, we don't think of rest. We think of doing. We think of, oh, I got to make this magical. I make this special for everybody, right? And do we? Not really. I mean, the main thing is the main thing. And, that's just kind of getting together with family. It doesn't have to be all these things that we're making it into. But if you're like me, you want it to be, right? So, one of the things we can kind of ask ourselves are, what are you expecting of yourself that God never even asked of you? The expectations of ourselves can be much higher and much more dramatic than what the Lord has for us. And that brings me to my second point is navigating family tension with grace, because there's always going to be something that comes up or someone that gets irritated. A lot of times, my kids will do this thing where they kind of like pick at each other, and it's all done in good fun, but sometimes it's kind of like, ooh, this is a special day. We want to keep this a happy time, right? At least that's my mindset. But here's the main point. You can't control others. You can only choose your own peace. So some of the common scenarios that we might find ourselves in are like awkward conversations, old wounds, different values, strained relationships. These are all different things that could come up along the holidays. We can have like a mindset shift where peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's actually just the presence of God in it. So we don't have to be like running around trying to make sure everybody's happy. One of our family members looks at things a little bit differently than some of the other ones, just different religious views, different like political views, just a different view on life. And so a lot of times I'm like, oh, we gotta be careful and we don't want to upset her. And, the thing is, you can't do that. Like, you're not in charge of other people's like emotions and opinions. You can do everything you can do to make sure it's peaceful and nice. But at the end of the day, you can't control other people. You can't control what they say, what they do, any of that. And Romans 12:18 says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. And so that should just be our goal. We're not going to be in there trying to shake the coals in the fire or whatever. But we are also not going to be there trying to put out fires, running around, making sure everybody's like, oh my goodness, did they say the right thing? Did they hurt someone's feelings? We can't do that. So we can pre-decide what our emotional boundaries are going to be. Like, okay, what's okay for me this year and what's not? And if there's anything like it's a big deal to you, then it's something that you can set up ahead of time and then you can act upon it. But boundaries are not for other people. Just remember, boundaries are for us. So we can't set up a boundary for someone that's coming to our house, or we can't set it up one for our grown children. We can't set up one for our parents, our aging parents. They're going to say and do and all that just what they want to. And we get to decide how we want to respond or not respond or set up a boundary or whatever. And that brings me to the third point. And this has kind of been the underlying theme all the way through today, is releasing unrealistic expectations. Because we talked about last week that expectations really can be like the root of resentment. And, the more we expect something that we don't get, and we put that expectation on somebody else, we expect them to do something or say something or behave a certain way, we can really start to resent it when they don't. The root of stress is often unmet expectations of others and ourselves. And I feel like the holiday just like blows this up even more. It just makes it's like a magnifying glass that's just, it might be there all the time, or it might be there a little bit once in a while, but it just like makes it so big during the holiday season. You don't have to make everyone happy. You don't have to have a meaningful Christmas even. We need to let go of all those shoulds. It should look like this. They should act like that. I should be able to have this magical Christmas, whatever. Those shoulds are always going to get you. In Psalm 46:10, it says, "Be still and know that I am God." And really, that's just the point, right? We don't need all this. I love the fluff. I love the sparkle. I love the Christmas magic and everything, but we don't have to have all that. And if we start putting that on other people and we start putting that on ourselves, it's going to just result in something that makes us feel frustrated, makes us feel tired, makes us feel overburdened or taken advantage of, or, not that magical in our mind kind of Christmas. So a good question is, where am I trying to play God in my family story instead of trusting him with it, right? Where am I trying to, manage all these things and, make sure these expectations do happen? Have you ever put a present on like your Christmas wish list? Or maybe you don't even do that. Maybe you just hint a lot and you just expect your significant other, or maybe even a grown child, or maybe even a friend. You expect them to get you this thing or this object or this whatever it would be because they know you well, they love you, and you just expect it. And then you don't get that thing. And then you're like, do they love me? Why didn't they do this? Should I have been more direct and just said, I want this thing for Christmas? It's just so much pressure when we have those expectations, whether it's a gift, whether it's how the holiday is going to go, whether it's how we spend the time while everybody's there, whatever it is. I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and we were talking about past experiences and past relationships and that sort of thing. And I was telling her about this guy I had dated for a very brief time after I had broken up with someone that was very significant to me. I was with this guy and I don't even know how much I liked him, right? But I liked him enough to be with him. But it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm madly in love with this guy. But he broke up with me like right before Christmas. And I remember feeling so brokenhearted because not necessarily because of him, but because it was the Christmas season. And so I had this thing in my mind, it's the Christmas season and, it's a time for love and it's a time for, being with the people you care about and doing all those things. And it was just so hard for me that happened at that time. I feel like if it had happened in the spring or in the summer or at another time, I would have been like, okay, yeah, that makes sense because we weren't really that compatible, But because that happened at Christmas, I remember just feeling absolutely heartbroken because of it. So, like I said, it just Christmas, holidays in general just kind of make everything bigger than what they are anyway. Up until this point, we've talked about, how the holiday kind of expresses everything. It makes it a pressure cooker. It kind of blows it up bigger than it is. And how, how you navigate that family tension and, do it with God's grace, and how you can have those unrealistic expectations and how to better manage those. But let's take it to the point where point number 4 is creating a space for joy. And I think this is so important to end on a happy note, of course. But, when we release control, we actually make room for real joy. When we choose simplicity, we find that one thing that brings us genuine joy each day. That makes a big difference. Or maybe that one thing, maybe you can't do everything. Maybe you can't do all the food and all the decorating and all the spending time and all that. But what is your priority? Is it the food? Is it the decorations? Is it hosting? Is it hanging out with people? Sticking with the one main thing is going to be a catalyst for being more joy. So we want to practice gratitude in those small moments. And Nehemiah 8:10 says, the joy of the Lord is my strength. So joy is a really important part of our lives. For me, I want to focus on connection over like perfection. You know, did I love well today? Does everybody that comes into my house, do they feel the magic? Do they feel the love that I have for them and the love that this holiday season can be? Not necessarily did I make those cinnamon rolls and did I make it stay up all night doing these casseroles? Did I whatever else, make it so decorated or whatever? But not that was everything perfect, but was I expressing love? Was I expressing God's love? When the kids were little, we always had a happy birthday Jesus cake. And that was just, I kind of felt like that was just the thing to kind of keep the focus on the focus. Because you know how it is. They're getting all these toys and there's so excitement and there's people coming in town and they're visiting and, they're opening things up and there's paper everywhere and lots of excitement. And I just really wanted them to remember, why we're celebrating this holiday. And the kind of funny thing was, I had my third son, his birthday was on the 21st of December. And so we called him our Christmas baby. We're like, oh, Samuel, he's our Christmas baby. And then you know how younger siblings are. They just gonna one up that brother. That's what Daniel did. He came along and he's like, hey, hold my beer. Guess what? You thought you were the Christmas baby. And he was actually born on Christmas Day. So that made it a little more challenging because now we have Christmas to celebrate. We have Daniel's birthday to celebrate. We have Happy Birthday Jesus to celebrate. So it really kind of spiraled out there for a little while. At first, I tried doing all three things and it really didn't work. And so after a while, I realized, okay, we need to do a completely separate birthday for my youngest son. We need to have a day that we really just celebrate him, that he doesn't have to compete with Christmas and Happy Birthday Jesus and all those things, that it could just be a day to celebrate him and just him alone. So we try to do that now, even as adults, either like before Christmas or after Christmas, we'll have a separate day just to, of course, we all wish him happy birthday on Christmas Day, but a special day just for him. So my take him back happy friends, let's kind of choose rest over rushing. Let's choose connection over controlling. Let's choose God's presence and the presence of people we love over perfection. This year, let's take back our happy by surrendering our expectations and by choosing peace. We don't have to do this alone. We can pray and we can just ask God to help us. Just, Lord, help me release what I can't control. Help me love when it's hard or when things are going kind of haywire with people in town. And help me find joy in you, God, in this season, and find joy in my family and my friends and making those big rocks the big rocks and making everything else, the small rocks. Even the magic of Christmas sometimes gets to be the small rocks. Okay, don't tell me that because, that puts me a little over the edge. But for real, if I had to sit down and think about it, of course, spending time with the people I love is going to trump all these other things. You get to decide what you want your holidays to look like. And I'll give you a hint. Don't look around you. Don't compare what other people are doing. Don't look on social media. Even don't watch Hallmark Christmas movies if it's going to make you have anxiety over the holidays. If it's going to make you have these just wild expectations. Look to God and be purposeful in taking back your happy during the holidays. That's all, my friends. I will see you next time. Don't forget to jump in the Facebook group and connect with me there and connect with all the other friends that are in there. Go ahead and become a TBH Insider. And if you want to do a coaching call, just hit me up and I will give you all the details on that as well. Have a wonderful week as we move closer into this holiday season. We're just, a week and a half away from Thanksgiving. So you know how the time flies this time of year. Let's make it a happy time of year. Let's make it where we choose to take back our happy and keep our peace. If this podcast blessed and encouraged you today, I'd love for you to share it with your friends. You can take a screenshot and share it in your stories, but make sure you tag me at Gina Granville so we can connect. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure you join my Taking Back Happy Facebook group. I'll meet you back here soon, and we'll continue taking back happy together.